Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's DA.
All right, welcome inside the freshest edition of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody. This is all off of the air content. You won't get it anywhere else. A little reminder, you can always get this by going to our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Show. Like the show page when you get there. Also, youtube.com/The Show. All of them are uploaded via video. And on our normal iTunes feed, you can get it there as well. This will be PGP number 51. So if you're looking for it on iTunes, you'll find it there as well. Coming up, my friend Big Jim Murray, who's handling anchoring updates for the Felger and Mazz afternoon sports radio show on my old home 98.5. The Sports Hub. Big Jim is always a fascinating guy to talk to because he doesn't come from a conventional sports radio background. So I always love talking to a guy like this. He's hysterical. He's great at what he does, and I'm really happy for him landing that slot because he had done his own show. He had been in rock radio, and now I think he's just he's totally comfortable and a great fit there with Felger and Mazz, one of my favorite sports radio shows in the entire country. So he's going to be coming up here next. I'll talk to Mraz coming up later on in the hour. So Big Jim Murray, my good friend from Boston, on not only his career but also the whole Deflategate and the state of Boston sports right now on the Permission Granted podcast. Big Jim Murray joins me here on the show. Big Jim, how are you?
Doing well, DA. Good to talk to you.
It's always good to talk to you too, brother. Thanks so much for carving out time. And before we get into career stuff, I want to ask you about Deflategate stuff because I'm still very close with a lot of the people that are covering this story in Boston. I still follow a bunch of peers, colleagues, and friends on Twitter. And it strikes me that there is very little independent thought going into how Deflategate is unfolding in Boston. Like, it is just burn the bridges, torch the land. Roger Goodell is evil. And I would like you, because you would not fall into groupthink, but is there any contrary to popular opinion thought going on in Boston about Brady, the appeal, and Deflategate?
Yeah, and it's mostly coming from the show that I work on and Mike Felger and Tony Maserati, which has people, I think, at times wanting to burn the radio station down from 2 to 6 when they're on. But I think that's why they are so successful is that, they come with a real objective opinion when a lot of people don't want to hear that, especially in a case like this. Because as you know, Tom Brady's looked at as like a deity in this city. And, I also agree up to a point that I think Brady was generally aware of knowledge of wanting the football a certain way. Now, I think that was for more of a comfort level. I think this goes on throughout the league, and I don't think it was to gain an actual tactical advantage. But the whole thing's been made a mountain out of a molehill because you have Roger Goodell wanting to look so omnipresent when it comes to punishment and how he doles it out. And I think he wants to make it look like he's on an even balance with the other 31 owners, in that, because I think that it was always looked at negatively in how he handled the Spygate thing in 2007.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the league and Roger Goodell is a clown show. There's no doubt about it. It's just interesting to me because having worked and lived in Boston, the one thing that I really appreciated was that if one of the local teams screwed up, you were allowed to go after them, and it wasn't pitchforks after you. If the Bruins or the Patriots or the Red Sox or the Celtics, if you messed up, if you lost, if a guy needed to be fired or traded, people were willing to go, you know what? Sure, there was a lot of success in Boston for a long time, which made a lot of people kind of rosy-eyed, but there was a good, healthy, okay, let's go after some of the local teams. They deserve it. I just don't see that or hear that, and maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but is Felger and Mazz the only people doing that right now?
The night show, Adam Jones, the dude who took over your slot when you left, he's really objective too. And you're right, DA. Look, people get it here. It's one of the great things about working in this market. I think it's one of the more passionate, intelligent fan bases in and around the country, along with Philly, Pacific Northwest, New York, and so on and so forth. Philly, whatever. But that being said, Patriots fans, which I count myself of, I literally have a Patriots credit card. They're my favorite team. I probably care about them too much. I actually am embarrassed at points lumping myself in as with Patriots fans overall because of how ridiculous that they've looked at this story as a whole. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Brady's not guilty. No. Like, how can you explain the text between John Jastrzemski and McNally, and McNally referring to himself as the deflator? Well, you saw what it said on the Deflategate in context, or the Wells Report in context website. You see that the deflator means he's losing weight. Like, you can't be that stupid. Stop it. Like, you can't be that blinded. And they're so oversensitive. I don't understand it. This is a team that was terrible for decades and decades, and now it's maybe because they're so spoiled. They look at the quarterback as infallible. I don't get it, but people are out of control with how they look at this.
There's a persecution complex that comes with Patriots fans, I suppose, because of Spygate and because of the accusations of filming the Super Bowl walkthroughs, etc. And this has really fanned those flames. And so I guess if you're a Patriots fan, you feel like you've always been unfairly criticized and persecuted somehow. And boy, this is kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like we've gone through the rabbit hole and everything is ridiculous at this point. Like, almost nothing's making any logical, coherent sense.
DA, I'll give you the best example of how embarrassing it got. A few weeks back, when Darrelle Revis was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they redo the Joe Willie Namath old '60s kind of cover. It's got New York in the background, and it had in that article with Revis a little more in depth about how he had to have his mother try to go get the Super Bowl ring at the ceremony that was being held at Robert Kraft's house. And, collectively on the show, Felger, Mazz, myself, we were like, it's pretty embarrassing. It was a bad look. They should have just had her in and gave the ring to Revis's mother. Patriots fans were out of their mind. That we said that. You got to be kidding me. Like, oh, no, I would have slammed the door right in the face. She didn't deserve to get that ring. If you had that party, you wouldn't have given her the ring. Like, really? You're that childish? You take this whole border war between the Jets and Patriots thing that seriously, and you're mad at Revis for going to chase money and actually go back to a team he wanted to play on? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hit a point of no return, too, and I don't know however this thing is going to end up. Somebody's going to be – it just feels like everybody's going to be unhappy all of the time about everything when it comes to this thing. So I don't know where it goes from here. I think it's awesome that you've ended up back at 98.5 The Sports Hub on the Felger and Mazz show, because as people will now find out, you haven't always been a sports guy. So to jump back into the sports fray and to be on the most listened to show in Boston has got to be like you're learning how to swim again, but like you're jumping right into the Pacific Ocean or something.
Yeah, I said it to some of my personal friends, like the magnitude of this show here in this city is, I think, on par with how popular Francesa is at FAN in New York, or even I said to my friends, I feel like I'm working at the height of the Stern Show. This show's that big. The ratings are ridiculous, and they have that much of a grip on the city. And it's not just people that love them; people hate listen. They hate listen too. So, I came from a background working mostly in alt rock and like rock stations, but as far as a sports background, like I found myself working on morning shows during like the 10 or so years I worked in music radio as like the sports guy on different permutations of morning shows. So through that, I was able to get press passes and cover teams, get sound bites, nothing really too in depth like working in this medium, but I at least had a little bit of a background. And then actually 5 years ago this month, it was August of 2010, I was out of work. I had gotten laid off. The station I was working at was kind of blowing people out. And at SiriusXM, the Mad Dog channel for Chris Russo, they were holding a contest called So You Think You Can Talk Sports. And they were looking for 5 contestants to come in, and they were going to pick 2 out of those 5 to host a weekend show. Or there was going to be one grand prize winner. So I made the finals. I was one of the 2. I didn't end up winning, but at least I got a lot of tips from Mad Dog's producer Bill Zimmerman that I kept in the back of my mind, and from that I was actually able to parlay, being in that goofy contest, to getting part-time at the Sports Hub, just doing headline anchoring on weekends and filling in. I'd work with you on your show when your usual anchor was out. So yeah, that's how really I got the ball rolling. It was 5 years ago this month.
Wow. And so the anchor chair for Felger and Mazz opens up with Mark Bertrand ends up going to the middays to fill in for Gresh, who had left. So now he's doing middays, and so that opens up that anchor slot. Did you think that you had a pretty good shot at going to get it? Because I know that was in Boston with Chad Finn's column, etc. It was bandied about. It was talking about who's going to get that chair, who's going to fill in for Beetle. it's one of those shows, as you mentioned, that even a situation of who's going to be the regular anchor becomes a talk topic of the entire city.
Yeah, which was ridiculous because I was told to keep everything under wraps. No, I'll tell you, this came out of the blue. So you had mentioned at the top of this, I had gone to do my own sports show. I did that in Atlanta at 92.9 The Game, which was a CBS affiliate. I was doing late nights, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. It was great. The hours were starting to kind of kill me, though. And I missed the Northeast, so my contract was up, and I got another offer to go back to music, to actually work at like a top 40 kind of station, doing mornings with a female co-host. I left there. It was a good gig. I was making good money. I was working in a good company with a lot of close friends. So, in this business, I don't have to tell you, you always feel like you have the proverbial Damocles hanging over your head, and you never know when you might lose your job. But at least in that place, I didn't have to worry about that because I worked for some really close friends of mine. But I just wasn't happy. The mornings were rough. I was, playing Katy Perry records and, having to talk about just goofy stuff I generally don't care about. So I was a little frustrated. And then in January of this year, out of the blue, the producer of Felger and Mazz, Jimmy Stewart, gave me a heads up and said, hey, there might be some movement and, just wanted to gauge your interest. And I was like, yeah, definitely. It just keeps me in mind. I didn't think anything would come of it. And then in a matter of weeks during the NFL playoffs, I thought it was on, then it was off, and then ultimately I was offered the job, and I really couldn't say no. I would have been foolish to say no to it.
If rock radio, if music radio was the way that it was 20 years ago, do you think you'd still be in music radio?
Oh, that's a really good question. No, not at this point, because, it's funny, not to sound pompous, but now that I think I really understand the nuances of talk radio in general, and not just talking formatically as far as sports, I think it's the realest form of radio. When I look back at what I did and, playing 10 minutes of songs, coming back, saying something pithy for 30 seconds and being like, bang, hitting a sweeper and going to a song, like, yeah, I guess it takes some kind of talent to be able to, say something quick and witty and go into a song, but talking for 30 seconds and then having a 15-minute monologue are night and day. It's almost two completely different mediums. So no, I wouldn't want to go back to it. I love doing this. It's a challenge every single day. On Saturdays, I also get to co-host a show with Chris Gasper, who writes for the Boston Globe and now does Patriots pregame stuff for our station. So, I get to have my taste of doing my own thing too, and I love it. I wouldn't want to go back.
See, it's interesting because I think our medium, I think sports radio in general needs more people that haven't been in sports radio because it becomes real cookie cutter and conventional, topic A versus topic B, take calls, get guests. I like when people come from outside of the industry and then add their own stuff to it. I think that's part of the reason Touch and Rich have been very successful, the morning show at 98.5 The Sports Hub, is because they didn't just have a conventional route of sports talk. And that's the thing is, though, you have to be good at sports talk. You can't just come in from some other genre and then walk in and think you're going to be good. So I've always liked getting outside ideas. And so kind of for you now being in the middle of it, do you think you approach it from an unconventional way?
I do. I feel that way, yeah. And I it's funny you say that because I think Toucher and Rich do a great job, and they really, I think, had to work at becoming more sports talk hosty. But I think that they have that element, especially with Rich Shirtley and the production that he does. Like, you don't hear a lot of that. And I think the same thing for Boomer and Carton. Craig Carton came from like a rock background. And for dudes like yourself that were mostly in sports broadcasting first, I know, based on bits that you do, how you involve your producer on your show, and listening even to Scott Farrell. I mean, you guys obviously make a conscious decision to listen to other formats and try to make the show more entertaining. Because I'm with you, like a lot of sports talk is very like, all right, topic A, let's take calls. Like, I think there needs to be other elements, and I think that's half the reason that Felger and Mazz wanted me for this job is that, I pride myself on doing like wacky production bits and doing like parody songs and stuff like that. And a lot of it can fail, but I'm willing to take chances, and they give me a pretty long rope to do that kind of stuff too, which I appreciate. And I don't think there's enough of that in this format. I think it, while it is serious, and especially when there's serious topics, if you want to talk about whether or not Ray Rice should be back in the league, like, yeah, there's going to be heavier times, but I think a lot of this format is missing fun, and you get that more from the music end of radio than you do from this side of it, and I think we could have more of that.
Felger's also a really interesting dude to work with, and it means a lot when he's like, you know what, I like your stuff, or you know what, I respect your opinion, because it feels like he doesn't like a lot of things. It feels like he kind of hates everything, and so I remember having battles with Felger early and being like, this guy's just crapping all over me. He doesn't care what I have to say, etc. And then as I got to know him a little bit more and did some stuff with Comcast, etc., I could tell I at least had like his ear and could earn a little bit of respect. And then once you're there, you're like, okay, I'm part of like the 2% of his life he actually respects or doesn't hate. So that's a big deal when Felger's like, Big Jim Murray, you're our guy.
Yeah, totally. And I think, there's two things about him that I think are great. Like, he's a genuinely nice guy, and anytime I meet people out that, recognize me from the show or listen to the show, and they come up, they're like, how do you work with Felger? He seems like such a DB. I'm like, actually, no, he's a really genuinely nice guy. It's just you got to pick your spots with him because he's such a savant with all things sports. Like, you really can't have a conversation with him about the new Dre record or anything that's really pop culture. So you pick your spots. And I appreciate that because, I learn even being on the show. And then the other thing that I think not a lot of people appreciate about the guy, but I do as like a radio dork, is that he's got a really good ear. And finding out a little bit more about him, and I hope I'm not blowing up his spot, but, before this, he was a writer for the Herald, but he also, as far as radio was concerned, he did his own show at an ESPN affiliate in Boston that had he jokes had 7 listeners. But I guess he had a really tough PD. He had to get ear checked all the time. He was raked over the coals. And I think that's a good thing. Not a lot of people do that. And a lot of people don't like to be critiqued and don't like to, have constructive criticism told to them in this business. It's as you know, radio in general, it's the land of the misfit toys. But he did that, and I think it totally made him who he is. It made him better, and it gave him a really good ear. And I, for one, appreciate that because I wouldn't be here without that. I mean, I think he gets some of the goofy things I do as far as bits and things like that, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm a huge Felger fan. Even when he's torched me, ripped me, or whatever, I'm a huge fan. I think he's one of the guys. If you're in Boston and New England, he's an icon. If you're outside of that, you might not know how good he is, and how good the Felger and Mazz show is. But it's really good. It's a lot of the things that I like about Sports Talk Radio that a lot of people don't do. So you've got this music background, and you're always good about kind of forward thinking and looking at the industry as a whole. 15 years from now, will we have music radio, or will it all be like Pandora and programming your own channel in your car?
I don't think we'll have it in 10. Never mind 15. I think I think we are now seeing a pretty drastic change, especially as far as music is concerned, for radio, and seeing how you have Clear Channel changing their name to iHeart. They are basically, I think, setting themselves up already to be a almost online only kind of feature. And I'm a big believer of, and talking to people that go to these big radio symposiums like the All Access conferences and things like that. Once this country is and we have even I'm not making a good point here. Once the cheapest available vehicles rolling off the assembly line are Wi-Fi ready, and Wi-Fi is basically free or easily available for this country, the radio towers will no longer be available. So you'll have companies like, Clear Channel that become iHeart. They're now a media company. They will be online only. CBS will do the same thing, whether it's Entercom, whoever else is still in the game. So with that, I think a lot of the music jobs go away as far as radio is concerned because they'll no longer be needed. You can just basically have a jukebox. You can hire one person like a Ryan Seacrest to basically do all your top 40 stuff. You can have Matt Pinfield to do all your alt rock stuff, and all these these singular guys that can do a whole country's worth of music, and it really won't be viable for as far as a job anymore, which I think is kind of sad. But I think as far as big personality stuff, like for guys like yourself and sports radio stuff and talk stuff and political stuff, I mean, there's always going to be a need for that. And if anything, I think it shows with the popularity of certain podcasts and even this medium, I think it's actually gaining rather than shrinking, which I think is a good sign.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, final question here. When you and I were working in Boston together, and you're a native Bostonian, I mean, it was kind of the peak, right around the peak. It was part of the peak of this kind of sports kingdom. When I was there between '09 and 13, you had the Patriots going to 2 Super Bowls. You had the Bruins winning a championship. You had the Red Sox knocking on the door every year, and you had the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and of course other championships around it. The Patriots are still really good. No matter what happens here with Tom Brady's appeal, but the Celtics, the Red Sox, and the Bruins are not. Does it kind of feel like Camelot is starting to crumble in Boston?
Yes, a little. Yeah, well, it does, especially with the Red Sox. The Red Sox, I think, are a disaster, and I think will be for the foreseeable future, especially now that Larry Lucchino is out. I think he was the only guy that was kind of keeping a checks and balances system there. So if they don't bring in a real baseball guy, a la a Dave Dombrowski or something like that, I think that team is going to be screwed for at least the next handful of years. Which is crazy because it now feels like that 2013 World Series was a million years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, in certain ways, yeah, it does feel that way. With the Sox, it does. I think there's some optimism with the Celtics, especially how they played the last couple of months, even though they got swept in the playoffs. I think there's an uptick there, and then the Bruins, as you well know, that's a salty fan base, and people were pretty mad that they didn't make the playoffs last year and how they missed that. But they had all those draft picks. We'll see what happens. And then with the Patriots, I still think that they have that window open a little bit here for the next couple of years.
Jim Murray, he handles the anchoring and headlines on Felger and Mazz, the afternoon drive show on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Follow him on Twitter at Big Jim Murray. Also on Instagram, the same thing, Big Jim Murray. And you're doing like after show videos that people can check out, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's the Off Air Show on YouTube. You can search for that Off Air Show. It's actually all one word. We've done about 49 or 50 of those. And it's just, quick, like minute and a half. Some of them aren't all that good. Some are pretty entertaining. But yeah, you have to have that kind of aspect too. I know you do that with your show and you get those guys in there. I saw you guys were all dressed up like 80s rockers and going through the streets of New York. So I think that stuff's important because it gives more accessibility to the show, lets people know you a little bit more.
Check it out. That's on YouTube, the Off Air Show. Big Jim, I love seeing you in that spot, man. Keep on keeping on. We'll talk again.
Thanks, D.A.
All right, thanks to my boy, Big Jim Murray, for joining us here on the Permission Granted podcast. And Mraz joins me now. Mraz, I've been out for a couple of days, took a long 4-day vacation. How did things go?
Things went smoothly.
Good.
Actually, sad to see you back.
Oh, that's nice.
No, I'm just kidding. It's good to have you back.
Kincaid was in Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
Any initial shots at Francesa? Because
No,
Kincaid really started World War III.
no initial shots, but all we needed was IK Ananami or Edamame to knock out Geno Smith. And with the initials IK, that obviously spurned some natural, I hope Mike's okay with this guy being on the Jets.
I see. Yeah, that was a weird one because his initials aren't IK, but that his first name,
2 letters of his name, right?
Right, because his first 2 letters have been kind of boiled down because the first name nobody can pronounce.
Right, as if the last name wasn't hard enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because usually your first 2 letters of your name is like your first initial and your middle initial.
Right.
Like
this is just strictly. This is for like if I was just shush.
Right. Yeah. Shish Mraz. I noticed that you are now on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it.
You are one of the late holdouts. You have sworn against it. Why did you finally go to the dark side?
Basically, I got a brand new phone.
Okay.
A lot of cool features and
Kind of
stuff
phone?
like that. I got the new Samsung 6 Edge.
You have been a Apple holdout. You're not going to do the Apple, no iPhone.
Wife has the Apple. I know a lot of people with the Apple, and a lot of people have done the Samsung and the Apple, and a lot of people I know have swear by the Samsungs. I'm sticking with it. That's what I know. That's what I like.
Okay. All right.
So I liked it. New features, new apps, and I figured
I heard a great camera on the Samsung.
It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Which leads me to, I figure if I was ever going to get into Instagram, why not start fresh with a fresh phone? So
You're a Facebook guy. You are a Twitter guy. Is that all your social media platforms?
Yeah, I'm not a Snapchat, not an Instagram. I've been very anti-Instagram for a while. So I think I'd give it a whirl for a little bit. I got to be honest, not impressed early on. Don't like it.
Okay. I do find your feed relatively interesting.
Okay.
Because
at least somebody does.
Because it does take a little while to kind of figure out what you want to take pictures of, what gets a good response, etc. I think I've probably been on it for maybe 2 years now or so. I like it because there are cool visual ways to get sports stories. Like the Sports Center follow is really cool. It'll give you just a snapshot with like a graphic of what happened over the course of the night.
Okay.
So you get really cool headlines in a graphic form. But what I find interesting about your feed is that on Twitter, you never take pictures of yourself in some type of serious situation. It's always funny.
Okay.
And on Instagram, you've now taken, I think, 3 different photos where you have like this Zoolander look into the lens.
That's what I'm going for. I'm trying to be humorous on Instagram.
It's not humorous on Instagram. You look like you're being serious, like you're in deep thought.
No, but that's where the joke's on you.
That's the joke?
I'm not really serious. I'm making a serious face to make people laugh.
Are you sure about this?
That's my game. That's my gimmick. I had a Barney shirt on, my workout.
Yeah,
I'm giving like the stare down, like I want you to crack a laugh.
Yeah, but it kind of comes off as
oh no, creepy.
It kind of comes off as like Zoolander, like I'm not arrogant, but a little like I'm trying to really be cool. Like your first one.
Oh no, that's not what I'm going for. Is that what I'm giving off?
Yeah, because your first one is you with your wife Danielle.
Right, she posted that,
and you've got a Dos Equis in your hand, and you're like kind of winking at the camera. And then the workout one, you're looking at the camera that says Sunday workout.
Yeah.
And then your last one was you looking into the camera kind of doe-eyed, and it says, "Can everyone at work stop calling me Barney?" So I can't tell if this is the joke or if you're trying to kind of, look really cool.
I'm not trying to look really cool. I promise you that. I'm trying to be, I consider myself a funny guy. I'm trying to have fun with it. Be funny. Now, that being said, I don't think that's my ultimate niche on Instagram. I'd be honest with you. I guess I can release this now. My niche, I think, is going to be I want to do the pictures every Sunday of my football foods of the week.
That's a great idea.
And I think that's going to be where my Instagram comes into play. I think
a great idea.
That's how I'm going to make it. That's why I went with, instead of a personal, that's why I went with the Mraz CBS.
Okay.
Because I think I'm going to tie it into the show in that way.
Okay. Yeah. So far, you've got 3 pictures of yourself, which kind of comes off as like a vanity, and then you got 1 picture of your sandwich from today,
Which was a direct shot at you.
Because I hate when people post photos.
Right, and I knew you were tracking my Instagram by putting a couple pictures on the Facebook.
Okay, number 2. I heard the second part of this podcast is very funny.
I think this will be probably coming up the most entertaining 10 minutes of the Permission Granted podcast within its first year.
With Joe D,
and Jay Berman.
Jolt and Joe D'Aloisio.
We're going to have a little kangaroo court because there was some newsroom etiquette that has totally been ruined, obviously caused by Berman, and Joe D has to hear both sides of our case, and it gets pretty crazy.
Okay, I'm excited about this, and it's interesting that Berman is going to stop on by the Permission Granted because last week he threw the show into turmoil by, first of all, telling the story on air of him eating too much on his wife's birthday, and thus when they were in the middle of relations, he had to just bail off.
Basically tapped out, like he was being punished in the ring.
And he was really descriptive, saying like, "I just fell off of her." And I just, my girlfriend heard that on the radio, and she's like, "Oh my God, if you ever talked about us that way, the way that Jay did," and I was like,
"I don't think there's anybody else that could do that."
No, Jay's an island to himself. And he was very descriptive. He said multiple positions they were in. And he said that
naughty nicknames, but would not release the nicknames, which gives a little element of surprise.
Yeah, and he said just everything started moving around in his stomach.
Right, blamed it on the ice cream after the meal.
Yeah, and then his wife called up.
Right, which was a great job by her.
And then in the middle of all this, he tells the story about you, just kind of like
snooping on Facebook,
creeping on Facebook,
which is ironic that I got Instagram after this.
Creeping on Facebook, checking out some of your former classmates.
I guess you want to call them that. People I've come in contact with in my life that I'm Facebook friends with that are now on the beach.
But you didn't go to school with them.
This one in particular, no.
So not a former classmate, just a friend.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, friend of a friend.
Exactly.
Okay.
100%.
Have you seen her in person?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so this chick is stacked. Okay, we can say this. She is stacked, and you were just hound dogging her on Facebook, checking out the pics.
Hooting and hollering.
And you had called Berman over to the computer, and you didn't realize the previous phone call that you were on the phone with your wife was still going. When you put the phone down, you thought you had hung up.
Exactly why you think I needed a new phone a couple days later. Something was not working with the phone.
So you thought you had hung up. She hears this entire conversation of you and Berman, and I wasn't in that day, just fawning all over this chick who is in a bikini on the beach, laying on her back, and it's just like all over the place.
Exactly. We even used the term hot dog bun cleavage at one point.
You said cannons.
Cannons, yes, exactly. There was a lot of vulgar guy talk going on, all while my poor wife was listening on the other end.
And then so the classic line from Berman said, and I quote, Danielle said, "Whose cannons are you talking about?" When you realized the phone was still on and you went and you were like, hello?
Well, what happened was she texted me and said, quote, I could hear everything you're saying. And I heard the text alert go off, and like I shot down and looked at the desk, and then I saw that the phone call was still going when I stared at my phone. So I picked it up, and that's when I went to hello, and I got the immediate, whose cannons are you talking about?
Now, how much trouble did you get into?
She was a little angry the night of, and then I think she realized that it actually was a funny story, so the heat has gotten off.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if you were sleeping on the couch for a couple nights.
No. Luckily, everything is worked out, but I got to be a little more careful on the hang-up button.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't get into too much trouble. That had the recipe for disaster.
Well, the best part was, thankfully, the two girls that we were looking at, she is also Facebook friends with, and she could easily check that those were pictures of that day, and I wasn't stalking deep down, if you will.
So if these were older pictures, you would have been in more trouble.
I think so, because then it would have been like I'm digging, you know what I mean? But those were they were in her timeline as well, so I dodged a bullet there.
Does this girl know that she's been the subject of conversation on the radio?
Absolutely not. There's a chance I'll never talk to her again, so thankfully we're Facebook friends.
If you did see her, would you have to bring the story up?
I probably would, and I don't know what the result would be. Maybe punched in the face, Gino style. I don't know.
Well, she must. I mean, I would think that she's proud. She really put those puppies on display on the Facebook page.
Listen, girls know what they're doing. If you're going to flaunt the cannons, you better expect people to stare at the cannons.
And talk about them on the radio.
Kaboom.
And let me ask, has Berman been all over that Facebook page continuously since?
He definitely has.
Yeah.
He always hovers over me when he sees the Facebook up in my cubicle. Wonder what's going to pop next.
All right, so this is the Permission Granted podcast. Little reminder, you can always get us on Facebook, facebook.com/The DA Show. Go there and like the show page. Also, you can hit us up on YouTube, youtube.com/The DA Show as well. And we are on iTunes. Check out PGP number 51 or all the rest to catch up on what you got going on there if you missed any or want to hear it again.
All right, welcome into Side B of the Permission Granted podcast. And this is going to be a very different Side B than we usually do, as we're going to do a little kangaroo court because it has to be done. I am the executive producer of the DA Show, Sean Mraz, joined by associate producer and the guy who will be the judge and jury here today, Joe D'Aloisio, and joined by bully/bitter/better Berman, who in my opinion has committed the ultimate of party fouls, which we're about to break down. Jay, hello.
It's better, Berman.
Oh, okay. Well, Jay, we could already see comes in here with an attitude. Well, to break it all down, Joe, you were in the newsroom a little while ago, and I think this is some off-air stuff that our listeners would appreciate. I heated up my meal, my dinner, some nice chicken cutlets, stuffing, string beans, nice wholesome meal. Sat down to eat. Jay decided to come up to me, hover over my plate, bend his buttocks towards my plate, and pull the ripcord, if you will. Fart dust basically might as well have been sprinkled on top of my stuffing, chicken cutlets, and string beans, totally grossing me out and really ruining my dinner experience, which I think is the ultimate appalling, terrible job. Jay, I'll allow you to rebuttal before we talk to Joe.
What is fart dust?
Listen, a long time ago, my Uncle Joe...
Because there's no way... I don't care about Uncle Joe. There's no way that exists.
It is true.
No, it's not.
Basically, a fart, not to be too gross, is essentially poo in air version, which tiny little particles are sprinkled all over the room.
That's not true. I don't know who told you that. That's ridiculous.
My Uncle Joe told me that, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, Uncle Joe is not as smart as you think he is.
He is, and that was disgusting what you did, Jay. And here you try to defend it. You farted on another man's meal, another man's dinner, and you're mad at me for being mad.
No, I'm mad at you for what you did yesterday, if you'd like to tell that story.
Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead. Tell the story.
I think the way you deliver the fart stories is second to none. So I will allow you to deliver this one as well.
I'm not going to leave out every detail like you would when telling the story. I arrived yesterday. I got a brand new cell phone for those of you listening who really care. And if you saw, I created an Instagram with that cell phone at Mraz CBS. Little plug. Anywho.
Nobody wants to see pictures of you, bro.
Shut up. Number one. Number two. I was in a bad mood because some of my contacts, as I am, let's say, a very good producer, I have very good contacts, were gone from my phone. The SIM card happened.
Very good contacts.
Right. They were no longer there like the T-Mobile people had promised me.
Well, be a man and get them back. Don't take your bitterness out on me.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. You want to drop a bomb there? Okay. Either way, I was upset, I was angry, and I wasn't in the mood. And instead of saying, it's all right, buddy, you came over, and once again, air turd flying, ripped a fart in my face. So what did I do? I told you, number one, I'm not in the mood for the farts today because you fart every day I'm in. All you do, you're a walking gas tank. It's like a freaking Harley Davidson flying by. It's all you do is fart. I don't know what you eat. Okay? And usually I laugh because I think if you don't think a fart is funny, there's something wrong with you. But there are certain times there's fart etiquette, Jay, and you failed. Okay? So that was not a time where I was in the mood. So what did I do? I got you back. I walked by, I took Jay's head, grabbed it when I knew the timing was going to be just right. I placed it firmly behind my rump, and I let it go. Just like that.
Wait a minute. So was my head touching your butt cheeks?
No, it never made contact with denim.
That is an outrageous lie. It did
not make
lie,
contact
bro.
with denim.
Bro, like, in all seriousness, you misremember.
Bro, it didn't. It came within the vicinity.
No.
So you're going to lie to the audience. Joe, you're listening to all of this, right?
I'm listening to all of this. Someone's lying here.
Okay.
Well, I know who isn't lying.
Okay. Regardless.
And he's the best-looking guy in here.
So I'm not lying. Anyway, so Jay's upset that I basically ripped his head and put it near my butt to fart.
I actually think that's funny. I will say this, though. The give and the take is what rubs me the wrong way.
But that was already a response. You don't get to respond to a response like you did today. That was disgusting. I'm eating.
Well, my question to you is that you prefaced this by suggesting you were in a bad mood and I didn't have the proper fart etiquette. Now You're telling us it was in response to me doing it to you, which would render the already discussed bad mood useless. So which is it? The fact that
you're not making any sense.
No, you're not understanding any sense.
Okay,
Either
let's go.
You were in a bad mood or it was
I was in a bad mood when you initiated the fart sequence.
Okay, but now you are saying that you got me back with my head firmly in your butt cheeks because I had done it to you.
Correct.
So that has nothing to do with the bad mood.
Yes, because I was angry that you did it to me. So I'm going to respond. What? So anybody with a bad mood, when something else happens to them while they're in a bad mood, they don't respond? Eye for an eye, Tiger.
So you're telling me that if you were not in a bad mood and weren't a complete jackass about the contacts in your phone, which you were, and I farted around you... I
likely would not have responded.
See, I think that's a complete lie, too. I think you lie to yourself. I think you truly believe that, but I think that you are suggesting now that you have not in the past grabbed my head, shoved it up your butt crack, and farted.
Not shoved it up your butt crack, okay? Number one.
You have done that many times, and by the way, the last half a dozen times that you've done it, you were never in a bad mood.
Yeah.
So the mood is irrelevant.
It was responsive.
You have lied to the listeners.
I have not lied.
Loyal listeners are now listening to your
shut up.
Verbal farts.
Shut up, Jay, because every time I do this, I respond. And now today, I did nothing wrong to you. You see me sit down with my dinner, and you don't even fart. If you fart in a room, it's one thing. I understand you can't control your bowels. You farted over my plate, man.
You are the most disgusting person that I know.
No, you are.
For you to have these rules about when you can and can't.
There are rules. It's fart etiquette. Farts are funny, but they're only funny to a certain extent. They're not funny when you fart and basically poo on somebody's meal, which is what you did.
You are the only person I know, probably with the exception of my younger brother, that has ever grabbed my head, shoved it in their crack, and farted.
Stop saying in their crack, okay? I shoved it near... Basically, like Saturn has the rings around it, you were one of the rings, and my bum was Saturn, okay? You didn't quite touch, but you were there.
Is it Saturn or Jupiter?
How about, might be Uranus.
No, it's not Uranus.
Okay. Uranus?
Uranus.
Oh, Uranus.
Yes.
Joe, now that you heard both parties here, I want you to weigh in. You observed all this in the newsroom, and I want you to give your take.
Wait a minute. Do we know for sure that he witnessed everything we've
Now,
discussed?
Joe, state what you have witnessed and what you've heard, and I want you to come up with a
Can
ruling.
I just get you to say one thing? Did my head touch his butt crack?
I did not witness that.
Okay, so then how can he be
How
judge
could
and
he
jury?
have touched my butt crack when I was wearing Old Navy jeans?
Okay, it touched. You said it didn't touch denim, which is an outrageous lie.
It didn't. But you're saying it touched butt crack, which couldn't have happened because I was wearing
fine.
underoos
it touched
and
the denim
jeans.
that separated your butt
All right.
crack from my face.
Back to you, Jay. Back to you, Joe.
To tell you the truth, this sounds very childish. The both of you sound ridiculous.
No, it's life,
I'm not
man.
asking for your opinion, big guy.
Give a
Make a
ruling.
ruling.
You're both wrong.
Explain how I'm wrong.
You're disgusting and Jay's disgusting. That's how you're both wrong. I think the farting etiquette in the newsroom needs to change.
Yeah, I think we all need to just let loose. Men, women, and children.
No.
White, black, brown,
Hold
yellow.
on. Joe, you don't think anybody should fart ever in a newsroom?
No, we could fart in the newsroom.
You know how unhealthy that would be?
I said we can fart in the newsroom, but
Okay.
let's not fart on each other. How about that?
I mean, I could live with that.
I don't think that's too much. I'm asking for too much here.
Okay, but is Jay not always the first person to come over, bend over? He has the same look. It's like a batting stance. You know what he's going to do. He puts his hands right above his knees, bends down ever slightly, and just poots.
You're right, since he did that to me today as well.
Okay, see? So he did that. Now, Jay, will you just admit that you were wrong, whether what I did in response to you farting in my face was wrong by putting your hate face? How can you not admit that you were wrong in
What
farting
you
on
are
my
not
meal?
understanding is because of your lack of brain.
Right?
Is that never once did I deny that what I did was disgusting. My problem with you was, and it was clearly stated multiple times, is that you, of all people, have no right to get on anybody about fart etiquette, okay? That's my beef.
Have I ever farted on one of your meals? Yes or no question. I don't need a response. Yes or no?
I would rather you fart on
Yes
every
or no?
meal from now until 2020 than have you grab the back of my head, shove it in your crack, and fart on it.
On my jeans. All right, Joe. Yours
By
is
the way,
impartial.
by the way, the incident yesterday where my head did touch denim,
Right?
you removed my head and made the surprise face like you can't believe that wasn't more than just...
Oh, my God, Jay! Oh, my God, you farted right here as we're having this discussion. You lose right there.
I never
That's
lose.
a walk-off.
You're right. Mic dropped.
It stinks.
Game over.
Oh.
Go change your underwear.
Yeah,
My
you know what?
goodness.
That's how we have to end the Permission Granted podcast for this week. Jay,
I love you all.
Jay, you're disgusting. You can follow Jay Berman on Twitter at Jay Berman. Joe DCBS. Joe, thank you for your ruling, which was nothing.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. You can follow me at Mraz CBS. And this was just the most disgusting and vile Permission Granted podcast of all time.